You want to know who a man truly is? Do not ask him his goals. Do not ask him his values. Do not ask him what he plans to become. Watch him in the first 5 minutes of his day. Before the world starts pulling on him, before the noise arrives, before the mask goes on, that moment, right after waking, that is when the real man speaks. Because you cannot lie to yourself when the fog is still thick. You cannot perform when no one is watching. You cannot pretend to be strong while moving like a coward. The man you are in the morning is the man you truly are. And I say this now without apology. If you wake up in weakness, if you begin in hesitation, if your first breath is spent checking the world instead of commanding yourself, then no amount of motivation will save you. Because a man who begins in chaos cannot build in clarity. You say you want discipline? Then why does your morning look like surrender? You say you want wealth? Then why do you move like a man with no direction? And you say you want freedom? Then why do you let the first hour of your day be owned by noise, by doubt, by comfort? And let me strike deeper. If the first thing you do is touch a machine instead of your mission, you are already lost. You are already declaring that the outside world holds more weight than your own intention. But I will show you the opposite. I will show you how the first hour of the day becomes your weapon, not a routine, not a checklist, a spiritual blade, one that forges your thoughts, sharpens your will, and demands that life bend in your direction. Because this one habit, the way you rise, it changes everything. It rewrites your identity. It trains your subconscious to expect greatness. It creates a current so strong that failure cannot find you. And if you've ever felt that ache, that quiet shame of knowing you are living beneath what you could be, of seeing flashes of who you should be, only to fall back into silence, into softness, into indecision, then hear me now. The way you rise is the way you live. You do not need a new goal. You do not need another book. You do not need more information. You need to command the hour where everything begins, because the man who wins the morning does not need to chase the world. He commands it, and the world obeys. Show me your morning, and I'll show you your future. That is not poetry, it is law. For no man builds greatness by accident, and no man stumbles into discipline, wealth, or power. These are forged each morning while the world still sleeps, while the air is still silent, while no one is watching. Because that first hour is not just habit, it is identity, it is instruction, it is prophecy. The man who begins each day with intention, identity, and decision builds reality from within. But the man who wakes late, checks the voices of the world, drifts into distraction, and lets emotion speak before thought. He does not command his day. He is commanded. The morning reveals who you obey, your vision or your weakness. The subconscious mind, that hidden engine of every result in your life, is never more obedient than in the early morning. In those quiet minutes before the mind is fully armored, it listens closely. And if you feed it confusion, fear, or reaction, it will obey. But if you feed it order, certainty, and direction, it will obey that instead. The first hour of your day is when you either plant power or plant panic. Let me warn you plainly, the man who checks the opinions of others before defining his own purpose has already lost. For he has made himself a servant of chaos. He has made himself subject to the direction of the world instead of declaring his own. And so I teach this now. Burn it into your spirit. You must begin your day as the version of yourself who has already won. Not the man still hoping, not the man still deciding, not the man still trying to believe, but the man who knows. You rise in posture, you rise in speech, you rise in belief. You act like a man who has already received his reward, not one still begging for it. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. You say, each morning I declare my identity. I rise as the man who commands his life, not one who waits to be chosen. This is how you become magnetic. This is how results begin to chase you. Not because you are lucky, but because you are spiritually obedient to law. Abraham Lincoln, he knew this. He began each day in moral reflection and silent resolve. He decided who he needed to be before his cabinet or his enemies had a chance to decide for him. And in doing so, he walked through fire with calm. He did not react, he led. And he led first, inwardly. So I command you now, do not leave your bed without a declaration. Do not touch your tools until you've touched your mind. Do not let the world speak before you do. Your morning is a battlefield. The man who conquers his morning has already conquered the day. The man who acts like he has already won will soon find that he was simply building the evidence for what was already true in spirit. You are not drifting anymore. You are not hoping anymore. You are not checking anymore. You are deciding, you are declaring, you are rising, and the world will rise to meet you. Show me a man's first thought upon waking, and I will show you the secret blueprint of his entire destiny. Most men wake up asking questions. What do I feel like doing today? What's happening in the world? What do I need to react to? These questions, though subtle, are the voice of spiritual poverty, because the man who begins in questions has already surrendered control. Your first thought must never be, what is happening to me? But this is who I am. The moment you allow curiosity to replace command, you place your mind in subjection to the world's chaos. The average man wakes up as a servant to the unknown, but the man of purpose wakes up as a general. He does not seek permission. He issues instruction. I do not care how tired you feel. I do not care what happened yesterday. If your first thought is not a declaration of law, then weakness has entered the gates before you've even left the sheets. And weakness, once allowed into the mind at dawn, will command the day like a tyrant. You must understand this principle. The subconscious does not obey what you hope. It obeys what you command. If the first words that come from your mouth are emotional, unsure, or passive, then that is the program you've just written for the next 16 hours. And if you do not speak with fire, you will live in the smoke of other men's fires. The average man thinks he needs more time. The wise man knows he needs more decision. And the first decision he makes is internal. Who am I today? And that must never be a question. It must be a law. So I instruct you now with spiritual urgency, write your morning identity declaration, not as a wish, not as a hope, as a command, a sentence of personal law to be spoken the very moment your eyes open. Keep it beside your bed. Let no foot touch the floor until that law has been issued. Let me give you an example. I am the man of discipline. I am the man of order. I act with certainty. I do not wait to feel ready. I move because I have decided. This is not empty repetition. This is spiritual enforcement. You may say, but what if I do not feel like that man? I say to you, it does not matter. Speak it anyway. Because you are not affirming emotion. You are training identity. And emotion, like a dog, must be taught to obey the voice of the master. Speak and it will follow. Look to history. When Henry Ford's engineers told him the 8-cylinder engine could not be built, did he respond with uncertainty? Did he question their judgment or his own? Number. He said, build it anyway. That was not a suggestion. That was not a question. That was identity and command. And what followed? The world adjusted. Reality obeyed. And the so-called impossible became fact. Not because he waited to feel confident, but because he spoke the law and his mind obeyed it. Hear me now. If your first thought is reactive, your entire day will be reactive. If your first words are based on how you feel, your entire day will be at the mercy of circumstance. But if your first thought is an unshakable command, the entire day bends to match it. You are the master. Your mind is the servant, but only if you treat it that way. If you act as the servant, the world will treat you accordingly. Do not confuse harshness with cruelty. This is not cruelty. This is alignment. A man who rises in power is not harsh with himself. He is truthful. And the truth is simple. The world responds not to men who wait, but to men who decide. Keep your declaration visible. Say it aloud before you move. Make it the first seed you plant in the garden of your mind, and water it with certainty. If you must, say it twice. Say it 10 times. Say it until the tone in your voice begins to change. Because when the tone changes, the spirit has begun to shift. The first thought of your day will echo for hours. Most men speak once and forget it. The builder, the creator, the commander, he speaks once and lives it. The strength of your morning becomes the structure of your entire day. You say you want more money. Then speak like a man who earns it. You say you want to be respected. Then speak like a man who commands it. You say you want power. Then speak like a man who already carries it. Because the world does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are willing to enforce. Repeat this now. I do not begin in doubt. I do not begin in passivity. I do not begin in fear. I begin in fire. And once you've spoken that fire, walk in it. There will be days you do not feel like it. That is when the voice must be louder. That is when your words must strike with even greater clarity. Not because you want to, but because you said you would. And the man who keeps his word to himself becomes dangerous. You may be surrounded by men who wake in confusion. That is not your standard. You may come from generations of mourning disorder. That is not your inheritance. You may have lived years obeying emotion before identity. That is not your future. The moment you open your eyes, command. The moment you breathe, declare. The moment your feet touch the ground, move with decision. And when the world meets you at the door, it will recognize the man who already spoke his reality into being. The weak man wakes in hope. The strong man wakes in law. Be the law, and your life will obey. A morning without direction is not a beginning. It is a continuation of drift. It is a slow descent into distraction dressed in activity. The man who rises without a chief aim is like a ship at sea with no compass. He may move, he may sweat, he may labor, but he will arrive at nothing with certainty. And that is the greatest tragedy. Not that he failed, but that he never aimed. Understand this law. Without a definite chief aim, your mind remains open to suggestion from the lowest sources: fear, opinion, complaint, and confusion. But the moment you fix your aim and declare it with emotion, your subconscious begins to arrange circumstances in your favor. Invisible currents begin to form, but only when the destination is exact. The chief aim is not a wish. It is a demand. It is the burning picture of your chosen outcome, written clearly, spoken daily, acted upon with discipline. This is not poetry. This is the highest form of spiritual order. You must write it down, not in generalities, not in vague language. You must write it as though your life depends on it, because it does. Post it where you see it first. Your mirror, your wall, your writing table, wherever your eyes fall first, let that be the reminder of who you are and why you move. Each morning you must face yourself and speak it, not in a whisper, not in apology, but with command. Look yourself in the eyes and say, I am the man who achieves insert aim. I walk in its fulfillment. I work with the precision of one who is already rewarded. This is not delusion. This is law. Your subconscious does not wait to see if your outer world agrees. It listens to the emotion in your voice, the structure of your words, and the frequency of your repetition. And if you persist, it obeys. Repeat after me. My aim is not a dream, it is a direction. My aim is not vague, it is sharp. My aim is not distant, it is now. That last word is essential. Now, not someday, not eventually. The chief aim must live in the present, even if its outer manifestation lies ahead. You must live as if it is already unfolding, because your spirit must prepare the way before your flesh arrives. Let me give you the story of Edwin C. Barnes. He did not say, I hope to work with Edison. He declared, I will become his partner. That word, partner, changed the outcome of his entire life. It was not a request. It was not a dream. It was a command. And his daily conduct obeyed that command until the world caught up. He was not a man of many wishes. He was a man of one aim. and the world moves for the man who moves with one aim. Let me make this plain. Until you begin each day by speaking your aim, you have not yet begun the day. If the world speaks before you do, you will inherit its randomness. If you do not declare your destination, you will spend your day reacting to distractions. So I command you now, do not begin your work until your aim has been spoken into your spirit. Write it, memorize it, speak it, feel it. Your subconscious is not a machine. It is soil. Whatever you plant with repetition and emotion will grow. If you plant your aim with fire each morning, your actions will follow. But if you fail to plant anything, weeds of fear and reaction will overtake you, and vagueness is the birthplace of fear. And fear, once allowed, becomes law in your life. Kill it before it speaks. Begin your day with a sword of clarity. Say it now. Say it aloud. Say it with conviction. I know who I am. I know what I seek. I know why I move. My chief aim is set. My morning belongs to it, and my life obeys it. The man who begins each morning with his aim becomes unstoppable, not because he never struggles, but because he never loses sight. His power is not in perfection. It is in direction. When others wake in confusion, he wakes in command. When others look for signs, he looks at his own hand. When others need permission, he begins. This is not merely a morning habit. This is spiritual warfare. Because each morning, fear will try to enter. Doubt will whisper. The ghosts of yesterday will return. But if you have your aim, written, spoken, enforced, then those spirits will find no place to live. Let your aim be the anchor of your thoughts, the root of your emotions, the commander of your actions, and do not tolerate a single sunrise without it. This is how you act like a man who has already won. You do not wait for success to shape your identity. You let your identity shape success. Write your aim, speak your aim, and then become the man who is already fulfilling it. That is how the law of success obeys. That is how the invisible begins to move in your favor. That is how you build a day that builds your destiny. Indecision is not neutral. It is decay. It is the silent erosion of your spiritual authority. The man who lingers in thought without movement is not thinking. He is dying in hesitation. And the day that begins with delay will end in defeat, not because he lacked power, but because he denied it. You must begin your morning with a strike, not a stretch, not a stumble, a strike. One decisive act that tells your subconscious, we are not negotiating today. We are enforcing. That act could be physical, a made bed, a cold shower, a stretch of reading or writing, but it must be immediate, unquestioned, and exact. Why? Because the first movement of your day is your first vote. And the law of cosmic habit force will multiply whatever you choose. If you choose hesitation, it will give you more of it. If you choose decisive action, it will carve pathways that make persistence automatic. You do not train yourself by ideas. You train yourself by movement. The body must obey the mind, and the mind must take orders from the will. And the will must be fed by decision, not emotion. Say it with me. I decide swiftly. I move without doubt. I train my body to obey the law of my mind. That is not a slogan. That is identity spoken aloud. That is how you kill the drift before it speaks. Look to history. Napoleon Bonaparte did not begin his day with debate. He began with order. His preparation was silent, focused, and structured. His enemies spent their mornings in reaction. He spent his in spiritual formation. And that is why he conquered. If you wait to feel like acting, you will lose the most powerful window of your mind. The morning is when the subconscious is most open. It is when your words shape your state, and your state defines your movement. Waste that hour, and you spend the day catching up. Movement confirms belief. It does not need applause. It does not need proof. It needs only decision. When you move decisively in the morning, even in small things, you tell the deeper part of you. I am no longer a man of delay. I am a man of command. You say you want to build a business, then begin building before breakfast. You say you want to write a book, then put words down before the world speaks a word to you. You say you want clarity, then act with such sharpness that confusion flees before it can settle. I say this again. The man who waits is already ruled by something else, but the man who acts immediately, even without full emotion, has begun the battle with himself and won. There is no such thing as neutral action. Every deed trains the mind. Every movement confirms a belief. The first 10 minutes of your morning will either train you to obey delay or to master it. Let me be specific. Before the coffee, before the messages, before the noise, do something that demands obedience from your spirit. Read the first page, write the first paragraph, speak the first command, take the first walk, and do it without explanation or excuse. You may say, "But I don't feel ready." That is the voice of the weaker self trying to reclaim control. Silence it. Move anyway. Your feelings are not the master. They are the echo of yesterday, and yesterday is dead. The man who acts swiftly is not reckless. He is aligned. He does not act to prove. He acts because he has already decided, and that decision is stronger than mood. This is not about doing more. It is about doing first. It is about beginning before you are asked, before you are expected, before you are tempted to forget your identity. Your entire destiny can be rewritten by a single law. Begin with decision. Let your first movement be one of power. Let your first step out of bed be a step into authority. Let your first words be a command that the day must obey. You are not lazy. You are simply untrained. But training begins with repetition, and repetition becomes law. You are not cursed, you are undisciplined. But discipline begins not with ambition, but with action. Do not wait to feel strong. Move like a man who already is. That is how you become him. That is how the world recognizes you, not by your plans, but by your posture. Posture is not physical alone. It is mental, it is spiritual, and it is seen in how you begin. Begin in hesitation, and you will move through the world apologizing. Begin in decision, and you will command rooms without speaking. Each morning is a furnace. You either let it shape you, or you remain soft and unformed, and the day will burn you instead. So tomorrow morning, and every morning after that, you move. You rise with law in your mind. You strike with force in your body. You do not wait. You do not ask. You do not explain. You begin, because the man who already won, he doesn't need a reason. He already decided, and so must you. There is a man staring back at you each morning. He holds your destiny in his hands. He is either your closest ally or your greatest deceiver. He will either obey your command or continue the pattern that has kept you small, and he is always watching. That man is you. The mirror is not a decoration. It is a battlefield. It is not a place for grooming. It is the altar of identity, and what you say into it will echo through every hour of your day. When you stand before the mirror, you are not reviewing your face. You are speaking to your future. You are not adjusting your appearance. You are commanding your reality. Because the subconscious mind listens most powerfully when your eyes are locked with your own. The ritual is simple but sacred. Every morning, stand tall, look directly into your own eyes, and speak, not softly, not passively, but with fire. Say it. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I finish. Do not wait until you feel ready. Speak until you become ready. Your words do not reflect your current state. They define your coming state. They are not observations. They are instructions. And they are recorded with more seriousness than you imagine. The subconscious is always listening, but it listens most closely when your body and voice are aligned. Posture upright, shoulders back, voice firm, spirit engaged. This is not a performance for the world. It is a ceremony for the soul. Say it again. I face myself with truth. I speak what I will become. I do not lie to the man in the mirror. I command him. You must speak what you are choosing, not what you have been. You must name what you are building, not what you are escaping. You must state what you are here to enforce, not what you hope will change on its own. Do not say, I want to be disciplined. Say, I am a man of discipline. I rise early. I move with purpose. I finish what I begin. Do not say, I wish I had more confidence. Say, I walk with certainty. I speak with power. I believe in the work that I do. This is not magic. This is law. Your mind becomes what you speak with repetition, emotion, and physical engagement. The man who mutters half-hearted affirmations reaps half-hearted results. But the man who speaks with the authority of law begins to command his life. Andrew Carnegie, before he ever held industrial power, visualized himself as a captain of steel. He saw it in his mind's eye. He described it in his journal. He spoke it with certainty. And he watched the world adjust to what he had already decided. The mirror is not just a surface. It is a spiritual amplifier. And when you speak to yourself in its reflection, your words bypass the noise of the world and penetrate the core of your belief. Exercise. After waking and declaring your morning identity statement, walk directly to your mirror. Look yourself in the eyes. Speak the following with full conviction. I am the man of power. I am the man of discipline. I am the man of clarity. I am the man who acts. I am the man who finishes. My aim is stated. My path is clear. My reward is already mine in spirit. Do not rush this. Let your voice shape the moment. Let your words ring out like a sword against doubt. Let your breath carry the certainty of command. This is the moment your subconscious is forged. This becomes your shield. For when the world arrives with its noise, its fear, its opinions, you will not be shaken, because you have already spoken law into your spirit. I warn you, if you begin your day in silence, the world will speak first. And it will not speak to build you. It will speak to bend you. The world loves the man who has not spoken to himself. He is easier to move. But you are not made for drift. You are made for direction. And your direction is declared at dawn. The mirror ritual is not for performance. It is for permanence. It is how you remind the deepest part of you that you are no longer reacting. You are no longer apologizing. You are no longer doubting. You are commanding. You are moving. You are becoming. And if you return to this moment each day, if you speak with that tone, with that posture, with that clarity, you will soon discover that the man in the mirror is no longer a vision. He is real. He is standing before you, and he obeys your every word. Do not ever let a morning pass without this moment. Do not ever begin a day by checking what others say before checking what you have already decided. You say, I finish what I begin. I lead my mind with law. I fear nothing. I speak only power. I command my results. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. That is not pride. That is purpose. That is not noise. That is order. You want to build wealth? Begin in the mirror. You want to earn respect? Begin in the mirror. You want to rise in strength, clarity, and certainty? Begin in the mirror. Because the world you live in is shaped not by what others think of you, but by what you think of yourself. And what you repeatedly speak becomes what you believe. And what you believe becomes what you build. So speak loudly, clearly, without apology. Because the world is already listening. Make sure your voice speaks before anything else does. Let the man in the mirror know, this is the day I rise in command. This is the day I build like a man who has already won. And then go prove it. There is a sacred hour that determines all others. And it is not noon. It is not midnight. It is not the hour others demand of you. It is the hour you command for yourself. The first hour of your day is the foundation of your future. What you allow in that hour will either build you or bury you beneath the weight of another man's noise. Guard it like a warrior. Guard it like a father protects his children. Guard it like your destiny depends on it, because it does. Most men lose their day in the first hour. not because they are weak, but because they are distracted. They invite the opinions of the world before they have declared their own intention. They open their doors to fear before they've shut their gates with purpose. If the first sound you hear is another man's thought, you have already submitted. If the first image you see is another man's life, you have already surrendered your vision. If the first words you read belong to someone else, you have denied yourself the chance to define your own identity. This is not minor. This is not harmless. This is spiritual theft, and you are letting it happen while you sip your coffee. The first hour is when your subconscious is most obedient. It is when your spirit is most tender. It is when the patterns of your next 16 hours are being formed. And if you let that hour be shaped by gossip, by complaint, by fear, by news, you will be ruled by fear all day. Say this aloud. I guard my gates. I feed only truth. I enter the day as a sovereign, never as a slave. This is not poetry. This is armor. This is what separates the drifting from the decisive. The man who guards his morning does not need the approval of the world. He has already approved himself through clarity, posture, and mental law. Thomas Edison understood this. He did not allow unnecessary voices into his space before the mind had time to create. He knew that once distraction enters, depth flees. Once chatter begins, clarity dissolves. The man who checks letters, gossip, or the noise of commerce before he's spoken to his own soul is not yet his own master. He is a servant to every passing influence, every ringing bell, every opinion thrown at his feet before he's even laced his boots. So I give you a command, not a suggestion, not a gentle reminder, a command. The first hour must include 3 non-negotiables: identity declaration, physical movement, and definite aim review. You must speak aloud who you are. You must move your body to enforce that identity. You must review your aim to fix your compass. Nothing else may enter that hour until these are complete. This is not about perfection. This is about alignment. When you open your spirit to strength first, the world cannot bend you. But if you begin in passivity, you will obey every pull and push that comes your way. Do not consume before you create. Do not absorb before you assert. The man who begins his day with reaction will end it in regret. This hour must be yours, fully, fiercely, without apology. If that means waking earlier, then rise earlier. If that means saying no to others, then say no. If that means sitting alone while others rush into the noise, then sit alone. The reward for such discipline is internal sovereignty. And the man who rules himself cannot be ruled by others. Let the world watch your results. But do not let the world shape your morning. That is your hour. That is your law. That is your field of formation. Say it again. I guard my gates. I feed only truth. I enter the day as a sovereign, never as a slave. Repeat it daily. Post it near your bed. Write it on your mirror. Make it the filter by which you decide what enters your spirit. And remember, if you let the ordinary in, the extraordinary will flee. The spirit cannot hold both clarity and chaos. It will obey the one you allow most. Do not open your attention to chaos and expect your day to end in peace. Do not feed your subconscious noise and expect to build wisdom. Do not let others speak before you've spoken to yourself and expect to lead. You are not weak, but you are vulnerable, and that vulnerability is greatest in the first hour. Protect it with spiritual violence. This hour is not negotiable. It is law. Obey it, and you rise in strength. Violate it, and you drift for hours trying to reclaim what you gave away in a moment of weakness. So from this day forward, commit to the sacred hour. No voices but your own. No vision but your aim. No input but the law you have spoken into yourself. Let this be the foundation of every day: identity, movement, aim. And let the rest of the world knock at your gates only after you have spoken your command from within. Because the man who owns his first hour soon owns his life. The man who begins his day without a written plan is like a soldier entering battle without a weapon. It is not bravery. It is blindness. You cannot expect mastery from motion without direction. You cannot expect power from scattered action. And you cannot expect wealth from a man who does not track what he builds. Each morning must begin not only with speech and posture, but with structure. You are not a wanderer. You are an engineer of your own destiny. And engineers do not guess. They measure, they design, they revise. Say this aloud: I do not wander. I refine, I sharpen, I build by pattern, not by chance. This is not management. This is not busyness. This is dominion. The review of your plan each morning is how you declare that your life is being built by design, not drift. Every empire requires blueprints, and your aim, your schedule, your action steps, they are your blueprints. To leave them vague is to surrender to chance, and chance is the creed of the unsuccessful. Let me give you a simple method, a precision review that takes no more than 10 minutes, but yields the power of a general reviewing his battle map. Begin each morning with 3 questions, written in a small ledger beside your mirror. What is the one priority today that drives my aim forward? What mistake or drift did I allow yesterday, and what will I do differently? What belief, behavior, or structure must I reinforce today with action? Write them in silence. Answer them without excuse. Speak the answers aloud. This is not journaling for reflection. This is planning for domination. John D. Rockefeller was not a man of noise. He was a man of method. He reviewed figures, correspondence, decisions every morning with surgical clarity. And the empire of oil bent in his direction because his will did not wander. Let your review be exact. Let it burn away vagueness. Let it shine a light on delay, distraction, and excuses. If you drifted yesterday, write it. If you avoided the task, name it. If you made no move toward your chief aim, confront it. This is not self-judgment. This is self-mastery. No builder expects perfection, but every builder expects correction. And that correction begins at dawn. Do not hide from your errors. Highlight them. Not to mourn, but to learn. Not to complain, but to clarify. Say it aloud. I face my results without excuse. I refine my path daily. I do not fear my own patterns. I adjust them with power. This daily review becomes your internal compass. It is how you align the direction of your days with the direction of your destiny. Without it, you may speak all the right affirmations, hold perfect posture, and still fail, because your actions are scattered. And spiritual law does not reward energy. It rewards precision. The man who tracks his movement becomes impossible to stop because he sees what works. He discards what doesn't. He multiplies his power through focus. No more productive days with no results. No more half-completed plans. No more starting over because you forgot where you were. Your review is how you command continuity. And continuity is the seed of momentum. Now listen, if you think you can rise each day and build wealth, health, and power without measuring the bricks you lay, you are living in illusion. Every successful man I have ever known, from Edison to Schwab to Ford to Carnegie, they tracked their progress, not for praise, but for power. They reviewed, they refined, and they enforced the adjustments with daily action. Your morning plan review must be as sacred as your prayer, as structured as your posture, as consistent as your breath, because the man who writes what matters acts on what matters. And the man who adjusts what doesn't does not repeat what weakens him. Say this again. I do not wander. I refine, I sharpen, I build by pattern, not by chance. You are not guessing anymore. You are not hoping. You are building. And builders review their plans daily, relentlessly, without emotion. This is how you rise with peace, not from calm, but from clarity. You do not need to hope for a good day. You need to review your plan and execute it. The future is not built by the loudest voice. It is built by the most organized will. So begin each morning with your ledger. One priority. What must be done today to move your aim forward? One refinement. What must be adjusted from yesterday? 1 reinforcement. What belief or habit must be repeated to strengthen your identity? And then go act. You are not managing your day. You are commanding your future. There is a moment just before you open your door to the world when the decision is made. Not about the events of the day, but about the man you will be within them. And if you do not make that decision with finality and faith, the world will choose for you. You must walk out as the version of you who has already won. Not soon will win, not might win if all goes well, not hopes to win, but the man who has already claimed it in spirit, already received it in mind, already decided it in law. You must clothe yourself in victory, not in clothing, but in consciousness. You must speak as if you own what you're building. You must move as if the reward is catching up, not being chased. Say this aloud. I am already the man I seek to become. I move as him. I speak as him. I build as him. I do not wait. I walk in victory. This is not arrogance. This is obedience to the law of becoming. A man attracts not what he wishes, but what he is. When you walk out your door, the world reads you. It listens not just to your words, but to your energy, your walk, your posture, your presence. And if you walk as one who doubts, who waits, who asks for permission, you will receive permission, but never power. But if you walk as one who has already received, who commands from within, who exudes order, you will attract the evidence. You will be treated as the man you have decided to be. Now understand this. The moment you let feeling determine your posture, you have surrendered. The moment you let emotion guide your walk, you have drifted. The man who has already won walks in decision, not reaction. So I give you this instruction. As you dress, imagine you are preparing not for today's tasks, but for the confirmation of your deepest aim. Imagine you are entering the room where your future self already lives. Your handshake must match his. Your tone must match his. Your calm must match his. Walk like the man who owns the office. Speak like the man who leads the team. Sit like the man who commands the deal. Move like the man who has nothing to prove, because he has already enforced the law. Woodrow Wilson was doubted, criticized, slandered, but he moved through it all with a quiet intensity, the certainty of a man who already belonged in the pages of history. His spirit did not rise and fall with the opinions of others. He had declared his victory in silence, and he moved from that declaration daily. So must you. Every step you take today must echo your chief aim. Every interaction must reflect your morning declaration. Every thought must obey the man who has already arrived. Say this again. I am already the man I seek to become. This does not mean you stop growing. It means you stop hesitating. It means you stop waiting to feel like him and start acting as him until your results catch up. This is the spiritual law of embodiment. The inner must be declared and enforced before the outer adjusts. Now I give you one final exercise, your closing ritual before you leave. Stand once more in front of the mirror, shoulders back, eyes locked, voice firm. Declare aloud, I fear nothing. I wait for no one. I expect my reward. I act like a man who has already won. Let it ring like a bell through your spirit. Let it cancel every whisper of hesitation. Let it replace every old identity that begged, drifted, delayed, and then go. Do not look for signs, be the sign. Do not seek confirmation, walk as confirmation. Do not wait for success, move as its master. For the man who lives as if he's already won becomes the proof, and the world, though slow at first, will bend in his direction. Because it always does, it always has, it always will, but only for the man who acts, not as the dreamer, but as the one who has already declared the dream fulfilled.